what if I told you that the problems themselves don't directly cause our suffering? That the real cause of our suffering is the way we think about those problems? Would you believe me? Let's take a simple example. Suppose it rains just as you're about to go out. One person might think, "Oh no, the traffic will be terrible. My whole day is ruined." Their mood sours before they've even stepped outside. Another person might think, "Great, the trees will be refreshed and the air will be cooler." They step outside feeling normal, perhaps even smiling. Same event, yet one suffers and the other does not. The difference isn't the rain, it's the interpretation of the rain. Now take a look at your own life. How many times has your suffering come more from the thoughts you've added to a situation rather than from the event itself? Sometimes, when someone we love replies to our message late, we think, they don't care about me anymore. But in truth, they might just be busy, or their phone battery may have died. Still, we spin the story in our head until a tiny incident becomes a heavy burden that weighs on us all day. Sometimes our suffering doesn't come from the past or the present, but from a future that hasn't even happened yet. We stress about work we haven't started. We fear failures that haven't arrived. We worry our children will face problems even though they're fine right now. We fear illness even when our body is healthy. This is what I want you to notice. We often pick up suffering in advance and place it into our hearts even before the event occurs. Suffering born from thought can be heavier than you imagine, like carrying a heavy load every single day. Unlike suffering from real events, which comes and goes with time, suffering from thought can last a long time because we feed it by replaying, repeating, and expanding it in our minds. Notice how, when we're upset, we often replay the same scene in our head like a movie we've seen 100 times. The more we think, the more we get angry. The more we think, the more we feel sad, and the heavier it feels. In fact, half of our suffering, or even more, comes from thought. Perhaps only 20% of life's problems are truly problematic, but we expand them to 80% or 100% with our worries, fears, and anger. So how can we break free from this cycle? First, we must accept one truth. Our thoughts are not the whole truth. They are just a voice in our mind telling one version of the story. Sometimes accurate, sometimes not, sometimes far exaggerated. Like a news clip edited to show only certain angles, easily leading to misunderstanding. Our thoughts are like that, edited by our past experiences, fears, and beliefs, causing us to suffer more than necessary. I'm not telling you to stop thinking, because the human mind can't stop thinking. It's designed to think all the time, like how we can't stop breathing. But what we can do is change our relationship with thought. In the past, we might have believed every thought, like believing any news without checking the source, getting shocked or angry over misinformation. But once we learn to fact-check, we stop falling for it so easily. We must do the same with thoughts. Question them. Ask yourself, is what I'm thinking a fact or just speculation? Is the actual event only this much, or have I added extra? If I stop repeating this thought, will this feeling lighten? When we do this often, our mind stops following thoughts automatically. For example, someone walks past us without smiling or greeting. Before, we might think, they must be angry at me, or did I do something wrong? And we'd fall into suffering instantly. But with mindfulness, we can pause and say, this is just a thought. There's no proof it's true. Maybe they were deep in thought about work. Maybe they didn't see us. Maybe they were in a hurry. When we see it this way, the suffering caused by interpretation fades immediately. Another important point: don't replay the same thought. A single thought can hurt us, not because it's strong, but because we replay it like watching the same sad movie every day. If you see a thought arise and say, "I noticed this thought, but I won't add a storyline to it," it's like turning off the speaker. It stops echoing in your head. You might ask, but what if the problem is real? How can I not think about it? We're not denying problems. We use thought to solve them, not to create more suffering. For example, if you lose your job, the fact is you need to find a new one. That's reality. But extra suffering comes from thinking, "My life is over," or "I'm worthless now." If we separate reality from added thought, we can focus on solving the problem, finding work, learning new skills, without letting negative thoughts trap us. Dear friends, if we can discriminate between what is real and what is just mental fabrication, we will find that our remaining suffering becomes much lighter. We don't need the world to stop creating problems, because problems will always exist, but we can stop creating extra ones in our own hearts. True happiness doesn't come from a life with no problems, but from having a mind that isn't dragged down into the pit of suffering by problems and thoughts. This is the shift from believing suffering comes from external events to understanding that our own thoughts determine the level of our suffering. When suffering arises, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we ask, "What am I thinking right now? And is it helping me be free of suffering?" If the answer is no, then it's time to put that thought down, like setting down a heavy load, so our heart can feel light again and we can walk on in peace.